Hey, welcome to Zack of All Trades. I'm Zack. A couple of days ago, my trusty steed, Trigger, decided to pull a fast one and spring an oil leak on me. I don't just mean a little piddly oil leak. I mean the dreaded 7.3 liter dipstick tube oil leak. To be fair, I really didn't dread it because I didn't know it was a thing until it happened to me. But once it did, I started researching a little bit about it, and it seems as though it's pretty common on this international built 7.3 liter engine. It's put in a lot of different things, but was most widely available in Ford trucks from, I believe it was 94 to 2004. It was an option, and people love the engine. I am one of them. It's a powerhouse, but this is just one of its warts. So I got to looking around to see what it takes to fix this thing, and would you believe I found one place that said it costs $3,000 if you take this to the Ford dealership to have them fix it, because supposedly they have to pull the oil pan, and in order to pull the oil pan they have to pull the engine. Now whether that's true or not I don't know, but yeah, it gave me the heebie-jeebies, and I decided I'm going to fix it myself. Reading around online, I found a handful of different write-ups and videos of doing this procedure, but it seemed as though they all covered a piece here and a piece there and a piece there. So what I'm going to attempt to do here is to kind of compile it all at once and show you what you need to do to fix this thing for about, I think, $10.47. We shall see. Hopefully it fixes it. These are the two O-rings you're going to need to get from your Ford parts place. The one on the left is the little one for the dipstick tube. The one on the right is the big one, the offender here. Go ahead and stop the video and write down those part numbers. First off, we're going to remove the negative battery terminal from both batteries. Stuff it away. That keeps you from accidentally arcing if you're taking off the positive one first. You can do it first if you'd like, but I choose to keep my wrenches unwelded to the frame. Once you got both the negatives off, now you can start pulling the positives without fear. The reason for pulling the battery terminals off is that we're next going to pull off the starter. Pulling the starter is pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to go in terrible depth on it here. I trust that if you're undertaking this job that you can figure out pretty handily how to remove the starter. Negative. Then positive cables. One bolt on the top and 2 bolts on the bottom. In case you were wondering why we're pulling the starter, there's the thing we need to get to back there. You could probably do it without pulling the starter, but it's going to make it a lot easier. Oh, and there's one more lead to take off back here. Now get up here and turn the dipstick tube loose by removing this nut right here and this wire clip right here. And when you throw the nut on the ground, make sure that the ground is covered in something that camouflages the nut really, really well. Now clean off the area as best you can. You don't want to get all these particles in here. Pull out the dipstick first, and then wiggle out the dipstick tube. Don't ask me why I emphasize that. Now take your big O-ring and put just as much Vaseline on it as it will hold. I mean the goopy kind, not the lotion kind, because that's going to hold it in the little channel where we're trying to put it. Then put it over your clamping gripping tool. The tool that I'm using, I have a pair of, I don't know, hemostats or clamp of some sort that was used for, actually purchased for flipping bacon in my house. Sorry about that, honey. I'll bring it back when I'm done. Make sure that it's something that will grab on to this dipstick boss firmly. Your life is going to depend on this. Now, once you've got a hold of it, go ahead and remove this gigantic nut that holds it in place. And as soon as that nut is off, boy, you are in deep water now. Because if that thing falls into the oil pan, you're never going to get it back out. So right about now is where you ought to start being terrified, much like I was. You also want to pay special attention to where that little indexing pin is in those indexing slots. That affects which direction or at what angle your dipstick tube faces once you get it out. Now that you've pushed that in there, go ahead and fish out the old O-ring. Get it pulled out. Try not to drop any pieces in there. And now push your new O-ring down through there. Push it down in the hole. And stuff it into that little channel, the little circular channel on the mating surface of that boss, I guess I'm going to call it. I wound up having to put a little bit more Vaseline in there so that it would stick into that channel. So just stuff it in there, get it in the right place. Then once you're confident you got it in the right spot, pull the whole thing back out, making sure to line up that indexing pin. Whatever you do, don't cause it to slip and fall into the oil pan. Now just go ahead and thread that gigantic nut back on there. It's not going to happen very easily. You're going to have to try this many times. What I found helpful, and you can't see it very well here, but I used a little scribe to hook onto the threads, and so I was pulling it out at the top and the bottom. Also, I discovered having clean threads, having as much of the muck out of the threads as possible was very, very helpful. And that will allow you finally to catch a thread. Whatever you do, do not cross thread this thing. If you feel like it's cross threading, stop, back it off, and do it again. And you want to go ahead and tighten this down pretty good and snug. Don't over tighten it because you can actually damage the piece that you're fixing. If you pull it too hard, if you tighten it too hard, it will bend out that mating surface and you'll never get anything to seal in there. Now go ahead and put your little O-ring on the dipstick tube itself and put it all back together. Please do be prepared for a little bit of additional leakage when you first start up the truck. I was horribly dismayed when I started it up and it was still leaking at the rate of about 36 drops per minute. What I did discover though after a couple of days of driving it with a jug of oil in the back was that either that O-ring expanded somewhat with just exposure to the oil, or it just kind of wiggled itself into its proper home and sealed up well. I've now been driving the truck for about a week and I haven't seen any drips come off of it. If it all goes sideways, there is a product that goes on the outside of that hole. Like if you drop that boss down in the oil pan, there is a product that goes on the outside of it. I can't think of the name of it right now, but I will look it up and I will put a link to it in the description. It's super expensive. It's like $350, but that doesn't look quite so bad when the alternative is a $3,000 Ford Visit. Huh? So I really appreciate you watching. I hope that this video was helpful to you. Please give it a thumbs up. Drop a comment in there if you got something to add. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks for watching.